President Trump has raised tariffs on Canada by 10% in retaliation for a TV ad sponsored by Ontario that highlighted Ronald Reagan's support for free trade. The statement posted on Trump's Truth Social account came after several days of public back and forth over the ad, which reportedly angered the U.S. president. While in Asia, Prime Minister Mark Carney reiterated Canada is ready to negotiate with the United States.
Yeah, I'll just make a few comments. Look, as I emphasized the other day, the government of Canada stands ready to build on the progress that we had been making in our negotiations, our discussions with our American counterparts. And we have a consistent focus in those discussions on doing the best deal for Canadian workers and their families. It is the sole responsibility of the Government of Canada to have those discussions with the United States, and it's the best way forward. And as I say, we stand ready. Now, we are capable of doing more than one thing at once.
On Thursday night, Trump said he was terminating all trade discussions with Canada over the advertisement, which he described as fraudulent and fake. His criticism continued in a Saturday afternoon post, arguing that Reagan loved tariffs for national security purposes and the economy. The New York Times posted a video showing how Ontario's tariffs ad compares to Ronald Reagan's original speech.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. That over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
I'm now joined by our contributor, David Clement, to break down Ontario's ad. Now, David, I want to start with asking, was the ad effective?
It depends on the purpose of the ad. If the purpose of the ad was to have as many eyeballs as humanly possible see it, then it was a tremendously successful ad. It aired on prime time, it aired during the World Series. The kind of commentary in response to the ad has 10x'd the views. I mean, it's probably in the billions. If the ad's purpose was to shake the hornet's nest and irritate the most powerful person on the planet, then yes, the ad was very successful. If the purpose of the ad was to try and get us closer to a deal, then the ad was counterproductive. In fact, it's a disaster. It very well could be the #1 foreign policy blunder in my lifetime, carried out by a politician, but a politician whose responsibility does not include foreign policy and international trade. And I mean, it also begs the question, when we talk about running ads in another country, what would we do if a US state or the Trump administration was running ads on Canadian primetime television, let's say during a Toronto Maple Leafs game, to try and skew political opinions? We would probably have a national inquiry the following week. It would be called foreign interference. We would be lighting our hair on fire in response to what would be seen as a pretty egregious attempt to skew political opinion in Canada. And so it really depends on what your definition of effectiveness is. But if the definition of effective is getting us closer to a trade deal, then this is a colossal failure.
And David, what political gain is there, if any, for Ford to run this ad?
And this is what I don't understand, because I could understand from the optics politically of being tough on Trump during a provincial election like he was in the last provincial election. We will not have a provincial election for a long time. He has a majority government. He is not going anywhere. So I do not see where this benefits Doug Ford, other than maybe boosting his approval rating slightly, but at a time where it really doesn't matter. The only other political justification for it would be to maybe distract from some of the other political issues that the Ford government is having right now, whether that be deficit spending or issues with where money is going in government and links to lobbyists and things like that. But really, I'm hard pressed to see how Doug Ford really in the long term benefits politically from this, given that an election is so far away.
And did the ad misrepresent the views of Ronald Reagan?
No. Now, it's important to note that in that address that Ronald Reagan gave, he does justify the use of tariffs. In that instance, I believe it was Japan and semiconductors. But in the general spirit of Ronald Reagan's philosophy, you have to remember this is the president who negotiated and signed NAFTA with Brian Mulroney. So no, the ad does not misrepresent Ronald Reagan's views on free trade. He viewed tariffs as something to be used as a last resort, to be used very selectively. It was not part of his governing philosophy. It was not part of his economic philosophy. So, generally speaking, the ad is true and accurate in the context of representing what President Reagan believed.
So, if the ad is generally true, does that not justify it?
I'm gonna be a little cliche here and quote my dad. Some truths are better left unsaid. And what I mean by that is just because it's true doesn't mean that you have to say it. And it doesn't mean that now was the right time to say it. And certainly in the context of having to pull the ad, in the context of trade negotiations being completely upended, it was not at the right time to be pointing out that Ronald Reagan was against tariffs. But I would add also to this as well, it's unclear whom the premier was trying to reach. And I say that in the context of the political makeup of MAGA probably doesn't really care what Ronald Reagan had to say about tariffs. Many young people really wouldn't have any idea about the legacy of Ronald Reagan at all. I think it's shameful that the Republican Party has moved on from the ethos and political persuasion of Ronald Reagan, but I think any honest political commentator these days is going to tell you that the Make America Great Again version of of the Republican Party today just doesn't resemble really much like the Republican Party of Ronald Reagan. And so, I mean, in theory, there's an argument that they were trying to reach those kind of Reagan Republicans over 65. But then again, those people are few and far between now, or in many instances, those people are Democrats. And so it doesn't really uh, hit in the way that the Ford government may hope it does, just because the political makeup has shifted so much uh, in the United States in terms of what it means to be a Republican.
And what are some of the other major concerns with the ad?
Well, I mean, the one major concern is the total amount of money spent. I mean, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money leaving Canada. A lot of commentators have basically said, like, why are we spending money on this when there are all sorts of other things that we could be spending money on, which is a fair criticism. I mean, we're talking about the most indebted sub-sovereign entity in the world, which is the province of Ontario, that doesn't really have a path to balance the books. And yes, it's an emergency situation and a crisis, but when you have kind of pet projects, is how I would describe this, and him spending money and millions of dollars on it, there are a lot of people from both left and right who say, well, why are we spending money on this when we could be spending it on that? And I think that that's a fair criticism given the current financial state of the province. And so I think that those critics are probably right.
Well, David, we are going to go to break right now, but we will pick this topic back up after these messages. Stay tuned.